Councilor Trolley is on his way, so I'll start with Councilor Petrie.
Here.
Councilor Manella.
Here.
Councilor Moore.
Here.
Thompson called in, said she wasn't going to be able to make it. Mayor Pender.
Yep.
Have a quorum, and Councilor Trolley should be here shortly.
All right. I can't, your microphone's not on, but that's fine. We heard you. All right. Thank you. So apologies, Councilor Trolley is going to come in a little bit late. So apologies that will be interrupted, but we'll go ahead and get started without him. We acknowledge that we're under a bit of a interesting evening. So we have a city council appointment that is open due to Councilor Councilor Paulson, who resigned, and we have 4 applicants. And I'm going to acknowledge the elephant in the room, which is 2 of the applicants are behind the current recall of the 4 of us. So for what it is, we'll get through it tonight. Then there is no public comment, so I'm going to ask everyone in the gallery and everyone online to please refrain from outbursts, interjections, right? Again, tempers are high right now, so we just ask everyone to remain civil and quiet. All right, we will get started. We are going to consider the 4 applications. Mike, did we have a 5th application?
Not that
Okay. All right. So that I am not going to be found to have favorites, we will just go on through the list that it appears on the agenda. So the order on the agenda of questions is going to be Gretchen, then Janet, then Carl, then Stephen. And at the Planning Commission interviews and decision that we had at the special meeting a couple weeks ago, the order and kind of what we did during the interview process was we kind of went through the questions of the application. We asked the candidates if they wanted to add any additional information to what they provided in their written questions. We'll do the same here, and then counselors can ask the questions of any questions that they want. I would ask that any questions are going to be directed at all 4 candidates to make it fair, right? We had issues in the past with certain questions only being asked of certain candidates, and I just feel that that's imbalanced, and it allows for bias and so forth. So we will get started. So we'll start with Gretchen, and so I think the first, the first question on the application is to provide kind of experience and training and specifications. We've read your application. Most of us are aware. I personally served with Gretchen prior on the council, so I am personally familiar. But Gretchen, is there anything you would like to add in addition to your application?
Is this working?
That doesn't seem to be working.
To our knowledge, it does not connect in the house, but it does connect to the internet. So people.
All right. Well,
And I guess, because let's just, do we have anyone on Zoom? So audio was very difficult at our last kind of mixed session, so I just want to see if someone on Zoom can hear Gretchen. So if you can just talk first. Yeah. Okay, let's do that and just make sure that those participating on Zoom can hear everyone.
Okay. Yeah, it's live and everyone carries anyway. Well, I think most of you may know this. I practiced real estate and land use and law for 32 years before I retired. Practiced a year ago. I also, as you saw, have been very active in volunteer work since 1980. And what I didn't go into is when I was on the subcommittee for the Planning Commission of Portland, I drafted the then new public involvement code that was adopted by the city council at the time. I've been a hearings officer in various different administrative entities and done land use hearings for smaller jurisdictions around the Portland metropolitan area from time to time. And I think the rest of my application outlines what I've been doing the last few years.
All right. The second question is, what specific contributions do you hope to make? Obviously, we can see your written answer. Would you like to say anything else?
I think with all of the experience that I've had in public service since the 1980s, I've learned how to be a good mediator. I actually do mediation and arbitration now. And I think that I could a mentor for new counselors if it occurs that there are a lot of new counselors. I think that would be very helpful.
Thank you. The third question is, what community topics concern you that relate to the council, and why do you want to be a member?
Well, I've raised some of the issues that I see that are significant gaps in the code relating to a lot of how meetings are held and how certain processes go forward.
Thank you. And then describe your involvement in kind of community groups and activities, anything that you want to add that you haven't either said here today or in your application.
Well, I've been very seriously involved all these years. Very high voice. I sang messiahs and Bach oratorios. I sang it in an a cappella group for over 20 years that did Renaissance music and folk music. That was before the MS.
And that is the 4 questions from the application. I'll hand it over to the other counselors if you have any questions.
Are we going to do question to each one, or because all the questions are going to go to everyone, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. So those after Gretchen are going to have a little bit of a benefit.
So do we ask them individually, or should we have everyone kind of go through and then ask our question and they can all answer?
Yeah. I think it's going to be clunky if we do it that way, but if
Each one.
you think each one?
All right.
Yeah, we
Just ask our questions and then we can, yeah.
All right.
I'll kind of ask kind of the one of the same. Like I can't find the exact question I asked when planning commissioners were on, but there could be something on an agenda item or something that comes up that you may not 100% agree with, but it is within the best interest of the city. How do you feel on making a decision like that?
And I was on the Tiger City, and some major issues came up which I personally disagreed with, but I saw that it was probably the best for the community.
Other questions?
So, Gretchen, you've been on all kinds of boards and commissions and councils and all of those things. So my question is, during the course of all of your work, have you run into situations where there was conflict either amongst the members of the board or commission you were on or with other entities? And if so, how was that resolved?
I've sat on 2 different arts boards that often had disputes that could almost come to fisticuffs. And one of my skills that I learned was how to get both sides to talking to each other instead of at each other. That helped get problems resolved.
How did you do that?
Staying very calm and separating the 2 groups, talking to each group exactly what their position was, they could figure out how to work with the other side. I do this other side, and I talk to each other. Listening. For resolve, even if it's only a.
Thank you.
Other questions?
This might be redundant, but I'm wondering if you can highlight specifically the service that you have provided for the citizens.
Well, when I moved here, I initially applied and served on the planning commission with Councilor Chole before he went on. And then I was elected to city council, served for 4 years on. I have volunteered with Meals on Wheels, and I work in my community. Since I'm a master gardener, I will go over and help people often who can't take care of their yards. I will go over and prune their roses or prune shrubs, help people in my neighborhood. And I have a fairly sophisticated garden and do it for all of the people that walk by. Smile and better about the day.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just, you reside and live in King City,
Yes, down on Royalty.
and you satisfy, what's the 6-month requirement for residing?
In King City.
Thank you.
Let's see. Are you familiar with, the Bankston property and the conservation easement?
Yes.
In your opinion, is that property available to the public? All right. Any other questions? Sure.
Questions that have been asked, so I'll just take for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gretchen, is there anything else that you would like us to know?
That I would be excited to serve, if chosen, and would give it my best efforts. Someone else is chosen, I will continue to serve on the planning commission.
All right, next on the agenda, Pam, welcome. And kind of same format. We'll just go through the application. You can provide any additional comments or information, and then we'll ask you our same questions. So, all right, first question is about your experience, training, and qualifications that you have. Again, we can see what your written application includes. So if there's anything else you want to highlight or anything you want to add to that first question.
For the Portland Business Alliance and for the City of Portland and for the Knoxville Business Association. So, and I ended up being the liaison between the Knoxville Business Association and Northwest Neighborhood Association because they had talk to one and say, it's important. Together.
The second question is, what specific contributions do you hope to make? Is there anything you'd like to add or highlight?
I would like to in 20, 30 years forward, because any decision that we make now affects things down the road. To me, it's very important that we have a good grasp on what we do in the way of planning ordinances so that we can.
The third question is, what community topics concern you that relate to the council, and why do you want to become a council member?
I think that the land use laws and very important to me. In 2012, I got a degree from Portland State in community development. I was spending a lot of time on land use and how you program space to make it attractive to various groups of people who can come together. And so those kinds of things. I was walking my dog in the new plaza over there, and Tiger is a little grim right now because of the weather, but I like that concept a lot.
And then describe your involvement in the relevant community groups and activities. Oh, sure. Describe your involvement in the community, essentially.
In this community, at this point in time, I serve on the Planning Commission, and I sat in on the Budget Committee for the King City Civic Association. And then just try to be a good neighbor.
All right, we'll address the same questions in the same order that we just had them. So
I have a quick request. Can you tap on your microphone? I wasn't sure if it was picking up.
Mm-hmm.
Jen,
I can
can
hear.
you talk a little bit louder?
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Sure.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So kind of it's the same question, but hopefully I worded it the same. So issues might come before council that you may or may not agree with. How would you look at it? As long as to keep the city's interest in mind.
The same as when I have served on jury duty, in that it's important to guidelines.
Do you want to stay in there, or do you want to go in the same order? Because I had that one question towards the end.
We'll go in the same order. I think
Okay.
we should be fair. Yep.
So same question, concerning your on boards and commissions and sort of thing. Have you had instances where you had to work on conflicts, or those conflicts aroused either amongst the members of the board or commission or in some other capacity? And if so, how did you handle that?
As I stated in previously, the work of being in the Northwest Neighborhood Association and the Nob Hill Business Association, I was on both boards, and I ended up being the liaison mediator between the two boards to come to consensus. And even in other boards, would have a very strong point of view. And I think it's important to hear them out, try to pick the piece you can agree with. Or considered that instead of, maybe change your position to a degree and help them have to defend their position to the point that, that they shut out anybody else.
Just remind me of one other thing.
Hmm?
I have just one other question, because
Sure.
I couldn't find it in your information. When did you start on the planning commission?
Been, 2 years, I think now. I think I sort of did the tail end of one and then another. I'm in the midst of a
Do you remember?
About 2-3 years in, I think.
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, I wasn't sure. I
Yeah.
couldn't find it anywhere, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
I was delighted to be serve on the planning.
thank you, Tim.
Mhm.
All right, I think, Mark, was it your question next, and then Kate?
Me,
Or was it
yeah.
Kate? Okay,
And again, it'll be redundant for all of our applicants. Just highlight specifically, service that, highlight specifically service that you've provided to King City residents.
Other than serving on the planning commission and having some involvement in the King City Civic Association, the HOA across the street, I can't say that I have done other public service for the city of King City.
You reside within King City? And do you
Around the corner.
meet the 6-month requirement
Yes.
in the city?
and then, are you familiar with the Bankston property?
I did do the tour with the planning commission.
And is it your understanding that it's currently available and open to the public?
No, I was not.
Do you have anything else that you would like us to know about or that you want to highlight for us?
Property, and off and on an active member of the Wetlands Conservancy and Friends of Trees and Nature Conservancy. And so, and I was a Girl Scout leader and a few other things in my life. It all has to do with an appreciation and conservation of nature. To me, the Bankston property is a sensitive issue that needs to be.
Thank you. All right, next on our agenda is going to be is Carl Fromman. So, Carl, would you like me to go through the instructions again, or you feel like we can just jump into the questions? All right, perfect. So the first question, as I'm sure you've heard twice now, is going to be about your experience, training, and qualifications. So, of course, we saw, I'll say the preamble, we saw your written, but if you'd like to elaborate or add anything or talk about what you put in your application, feel free.
I think I can really elaborate on is for 24 years. Specifically on that engineering experience, I worked with the Oregon Department of Transportation. And then also, last time, the federal energy regulatory commission.
And what specific contributions would you like to make to King City?
Predominantly, I want to improve communication with the current community residents. I want to restore confidence in the current community residents that they are being heard, understood, and their concerns are acted upon appropriately by City Council.
And number 3 is, what community topics concern you that relate to the council, and why do you want to become a member?
Our concern is when I'm out in the community talking to people on various activities, for their petitions and drives, and just talking to people in the neighborhood. There's been a lot of discussion, even here, about a lack of participation, and I've been trying to dig into finding out why they're not participating, and mostly it was out of frustration. Found a lot of people that weren't participating had at one point, or maybe once or twice, and then quit out of frustration, and they're still frustrated. So I would like to restore their trust.
Okay, thank you. And 4 is, describe your involvement in relevant community groups and activities in King City.
I would say using my engineering experience and involved in the early planning and implementation of Edgewater expansion, which goes back to construction and I believe sort of like the first phase. Working with City Council, working with developers, and what seemed to be a really collaborative process on making sure it was the best for the community. I talked to a lot of people in Edgewater that really weren't aware of how much effort went into making it the way it is now, and how many people thinking ahead for what that really needed. And there were times when that's challenging because some people help in that process. Eventually,
Great, thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Apologies.
Okay, that was or a further explanation on my written. What I wanted to add to that is
Great, thank you. Questions from the council? We'll go in the same order that we went. Same questions, please.
Yep, the girl. So items might come along, on the agenda that you may or may not have, depending on what your views are. How would you handle them to make sure it's in the best interest of the city?
a common situation in my career. We had out and we need to resolve person and the regulator. We really had to dig down and find out what was the basis of all those concerns were and what could we do to make it more acceptable to them. And it was, I thought, a good process because you really did have somebody that was unbiased in the middle trying to resolve things. And it's something that seems to be missing in our current processes in the city, where we just don't have somebody there that's really trying to listen to the community concerns, really try to resolve things rather than just having something that they came in and that's the way it's going to be. And the process is working.
So my question for the others was about serving on boards or commissions and what might have come up, conflicts. Now, I'm not seeing anything on your resume, whether you have had any volunteer or appointed positions along those lines. Can you elaborate on that? And if you have, that I'm not seeing, how did you work with conflict?
My volunteer work has mostly been outside King City. I worked with Chair Lord engineering projects, like bridges and things they might have on their facilities and needed inspections or engineering work done on. So I really couldn't find any the question, the way I understand it, on members or groups that have conflicts, I would, even amongst the regulators ourselves, we would have conflicts. But the developer would make a stronger argument. Community, how are we going to resolve this? And we have resolved.
I guess I was really looking for more outside of work kinds of things, like maybe some kind of a volunteer board or commission for some other kind of activity that might have involved you at all.
Yeah, I've been on volunteer work and on boards, but I can't think of any that were really a conflict. They were usually happy to have us and appreciated anything we could give them with free services. So, the biggest conflict I guess we had was running up against, say, the county on, why we thought the bridge was acceptable and didn't care. So, we told them why that it was and so as a volunteer, I can only come up with work situations, conflicts with groups. Volunteer conflict.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep.
Could you please, here we go. Could you please highlight specific service that you provided to King City residents?
Yeah, specific to King City, like I said, most of the other stuff was not King City, but specific to King City, I guess I go back to the early development, sort of the planning stages of like 03, early processes, being on those routes, and working with council and working with developers to that process and any changes, and when we thought something was done, and then along the way would interpret it differently and start making, following what the agreement had been, and then having to get that brought up and resolved and hopefully redirected to. Currently, on the engineering work.
So you live within King City?
Yes.
And you have satisfied the 6-month requirement for residency?
And are you familiar with the Bankston properties? And to your understanding, is it currently available to the public to access?
My professional clinic career has dealt with a lot of wildlife areas, and
Mr. Swanson, it's a yes or no question. So your answer is no. Okay. All right. Do you have anything that you would like to elaborate on that you didn't address in your application? Or any other information that you would like us to take into consideration when take into consideration?
I think I generally covered it. My family, years I plan to be here.
Great, thank you, I appreciate that. All right, Mr. Gerhardt, so, oh yeah, pass the microphone, please. I am happy to provide you the same preamble as I gave everyone else, but of course, it will be just repetitive. So would you like us just to go straight into the questions? All right. So the first question on the application is referencing your experience, your training, your qualifications. Of course, like everyone else, we can see the written responses, but is there anything you'd like us to better understand or you want to add to?
And you all saw a copy of my resume.
Yes, we have.
On the first question, I think one of the greatest lessons I learned was 13 years ago, people, was the engineering technical representative or liaison between engineering department and my job was manufacturing department. They have all these CNC 10,000, 1 or 2,000. My job is to to the rifle scope and see the rating. Then I had to back up, sign it. Imagine the different ways I was told by a number of departments, a number of people, all levels of the company, tap me on the shoulder. What that taught me was how to listen to all sides and come up with the best solution. I think I look back on that. I use the skills learned in that every day. I like to be confident. Really, in discussions, I try to do it all.
I appreciate that answer. Thank you. The second question is regarding your contributions. What specific contributions do you hope to make to King City?
Carl mentioned, I think it's critically important to trust that. Getting signatures was not something that, we had to do it. And what we learned going door to door, talking to the people, they're getting tired of not being listened to. And a lot of them are not speaking. Literally, especially going down
Thank you. What community topics concern you that relate to King City, and why do you want to become a member of City Council?
Throughout my career, have had so much experience giving back to the community, and it's just been so great. And because of that, that's just an ongoing desire I have to give back. I think I've got a lot to offer. I tell people we've got one mouth and 2 ears for a reason. I don't listen a lot more than
And then lastly, can you describe your involvement in community groups and activities within King City? I think that's what we would be looking for. Technically, the application doesn't say that, so I welcome any outside community groups that you want to reference. But
you've seen my resume. Inside King City, the latest treasure of the region. Talking to the people, that's been an invaluable experience.
questions in the same order, please?
All right. Can you go by Steve?
Yes.
Okay. Thought I heard you earlier. Oh, yeah, my question was, items might come up on, agenda that you may not, see eye to eye with or have same, viewpoints on. How would you tackle that when you have to go within the best interest of the city?
Number one, first and foremost, all about listening. I bring a lot of that. I know that what I saw in manufacturing company, there was, for me, better. On the phone. And those are my favorite customers. Every single time, I can turn them around. I'm from the moon, and start all over again. But those were my best customers. Because I bend over backwards to make sure they're happy. And a lot of
Laura?
So I can see from your resume, Steve, that you've been involved in all kinds of volunteer and probably appointed positions and boards and commissions, et cetera. So in that time, have you had instances where there was conflict either amongst the members of the board or commission or with other groups? And if so, how was that resolved?
I don't think it's resolved today. I was on the planning commission for Wasco County. And the planning commission has a commission. I was with it. Not on the planning commission, but I was a commissioner for the planning commission. Didn't make sense. Anyway, there was another group, that was in Wasco County, so the Downs. There was another group called Friends of Club. Heard of them. They're a very, very full group, and they have power. Two groups didn't get along together at all. And it was a constant struggle. Find something in the middle for both of them because they're such strong groups. Almost the same as politics are today between Republicans and Democrats. Everybody's on one. That was a great experience and brought a lot of there to help them. Somebody was talking about the color of their house on the Washington side of the border, and he explained it from Hood River, so they could see the house, and they were supposed to be able to see that. The wrong color. Had to resolve that. Great.
Thank you.
Could you highlight, could you please highlight specific services provided to King City residents? You kind of already did. Go ahead and repeat what you want or what you don't. Add what you need to.
Sure. Specifically was as the treasurer of the recall. All about listening.
And you reside in King City? Well,
No, it's the same question. Are you familiar with the Bankston property? And to your knowledge, is it currently open to the public? Do you have any other questions or any other comments or information that you would like us to take into consideration? Thank you. Well, this is the awkward time where we get to talk about you in front of you, and that is just the way it goes. So at this time, I can either entertain a motion, or we can talk if no one is ready for a motion quite yet.
Well, you guys can feel free to know, but I do have a question that I'd like to ask everyone, an additional question.
Okay, as long as
everyone,
I think it's fair as long as it's asked of everyone. Is everyone else good with that?
yeah, probably go in the same order that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
like, answer. If I need to repeat the question, I'll do my best. I'm gonna... Literally, I have not. Okay, so this kind of came up when you were explaining some of your experience, and I also have been talking with a lot of residents in the past couple of weeks, and I have also been experiencing a lot of frustration from residents, and overwhelmingly, that frustration is about HOA dues and a pool issue. And so my question is to each of the four of you, what steps would you take to ensure that the residents specifically of KCCA and then also of other HOAs understand where the division is between what their HOA is in charge of and what the city is in charge of?
Now, I will speak to what I did while I was on the council. I liaised to KCCA when there were specific issues such as a bond measure or something like that. And I would go over to their meeting and have the discussion. This is what the city does. You are a member of this HOA. That has to do with your house. You are a resident of the city. And usually I would get everybody nodding their head by the time I got done with the discussion. Unfortunately, less than 10% HOA members. So I agree with you. In my own neighborhood, I've walked, tried to explain what the difference is, and many of them are confused.
I'm sorry, Ronnie, can you move the microphone? Yeah.
I have had to correct those who say, why isn't the city doing something about the street? Why isn't the city doing whatever? And I'm going, because that's not the city's jurisdiction. And I suppose as I talk to people, I try to explain that, yes, I'm on all the fences and those kinds of things, or whether the swimming pool's supposed to be fixed. And I think one thing that might be helpful is an occasional large informational postcard. This is what your city does. As many of the people in
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to repeat it, or do you
Oh,
want
I'd
to
be,
Either way.
I'll repeat it
Okay.
for you. Just what specific steps would you make sure, specifically residents of KCCA, but also all HOAs in our city understand the division between what the HOA does and is responsible for what the city does?
Communication, and that is difficult. I did run into that when I've been out community lately. I was a member of the, who volunteered to, so I did do that, and I ran into two problems. One where they really didn't know the difference. And they'd say a couple things, and you'd say, okay, I understand your frustration, tell me more about that, okay, and does that relate to this issue? And then they'd go off on the pool or something, and you just pull the I remember cases. And usually they realize that, oh yeah, right, and they kind of know. And then there was another group that they were just so frustrated with everything, they knew the difference, but they'd run them all together, because they just had a laundry list of things they were happy about. And when she talked to them, said, no, we gotta talk about these issues. And they could separate them pretty well, but they'd say, but I'm mad about all of them, and then they'd run them all together again. So there were kind of two different groups, the ones that just wanted to complain about everything, and they kind of knew, and the other ones that kind of had to be reminded what is. I mean, I only live 3 blocks from the pool, so the pool's really big in my area, and it's very frustrating to have it closed. But I found those people maybe are a little more knowledgeable just because they're actively thinking about pool maybe. And once you get further away, then maybe they kind of mix up a little. But yeah, it's a communication issue. There's a lot of things I think that could be done. Always going to be an issue with so many different things. I think it will get better once the pool commercial litigation is. And then I think that would be a big help, but it's going to be a communication issue.
Great question. And I think Mark, in next door, I think you had a great answer to that question. I think you laid out exactly how you pay taxes to these people, and you pay your HOA dues to these people. That's really the distinction. I was on the city council. I would hold community conversations, something like I think you guys were going to do down here a couple of weeks. But when I saw that notice come out, I thought, man, that's good. That's the stuff work. Yeah, there next time. We have such a structured forum where people have 3 minutes and that's it. I think we really focus. My wife and I and you're right, there were like the way it is what $1,400. People are often mad, and they so we started doing those meetings because something was wrong. Suddenly, that room was 125 meetings for months and months. Fortunately, things have changed a lot there. It's a rather dysfunctional organization. Are we all? I'm hoping that in the future there'll be some better leadership in there, and I think for the smart ones, our hand out first, and all the other.
Any other questions? Right, did you have
The questions I have, so answered, so thank you. Great answer, thank you.
Sorry, you're good? All right. We can either take a motion and discuss, or if you have strong opinions and want to discuss now, we can do that. It just depends on, I leave it off to you back to tell me what you're ready to proceed.
Anybody? Or
Good job. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, all 4 of you, for volunteering to be appointed to City Council. I've lived here, year is this, so just about 13 years, and when I first moved to the city, like, there were not, and some of you have been around that long too, no one would run. no one would even run for office. And a lot of positions had to be filled by appointment. Council positions had to be filled by appointment just because people wouldn't run in an election. So just the fact that we have 4 people here, and I didn't put it together until just now. I think all 4 of you are KCCA, right? Yeah, which that's fantastic. And that alone makes me really happy to see that growth. And, you know, growth, I think I've said this sitting in this chair before, that a lot of that chair right there, a lot of the time growth is painful, and growth and change, you know, can be uncomfortable for any of us for many reasons. So I do appreciate it. I know that it can't have been easy to sit and answer all of our questions, the 4 of you. So I just want to acknowledge that for sure. I think that all 4 of you have some really, really interesting and unique qualities and experience to bring to the city in whatever capacity you're able to do that. I would like to move to nominate, to appoint Jan Tyso to the City Council.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? It was Lori. Any discussion? Wait, no. Okay. All right, then I call for a vote.
And I do.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said no. Sorry.
So I have to second what Kate is saying, is that I think all of you have really interesting backgrounds and would be beneficial to any of the boards or commissions that we have here in King City. At this point in time, I'm looking more for a continuation of some experience that has already happened, and especially concerning all the development issues that we have. And I know that the rest of you would certainly be able to come up to speed quickly, but for me, I think we need to get boots on the ground right away, and that's kind of the direction that I'm looking at right now. But thank you all for stepping up and coming forward. I for one, appreciate all of you, so.
All right, we'll call for, go ahead. Yeah, sure. Any other comments? Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, I agree with Larry and Kate. It's really something that we encourage all the residents to do, participate in what we do. We encourage everyone to come here. We hold meetings, and it's open to the public. And all the great answers you all provided, I really appreciate it. Feedback that we would like to use in our future deliberation, future plans, and everything that we do for the city. Yes, communication, key, right? I mean, in everything we do, we want to make sure that communication is just a two-way street, and we're listening to the people, and we're also making sure that whatever is provided, we use it. I mean, again, it's one thing to say people are saying something or they're making comments, and it's another thing to say, are you actually listening to them, right? You can listen to them, right? But again, a lot of it boils down to you have a lot of people that are actually chewing down on that and digesting it and making sure that that information is something that we take time to actually make sure we're making sure that what we're looking at is something that doesn't impact on either the person that is deciding or the person that is actually making that comment. And that's what we've done through the whole time that we've gone through this process. Again, I really appreciate all 4 of you coming for this position. I mean, it's one thing to take that step and move forward and actually say, I really want to do this. Like Kate mentioned, when I joined the Planning Commission, I was told time commitment. I was told a lot of things that's required, but again, the service is what was behind what I really wanted to do. And so I encourage you, like Larry, if you have two positions that are open of interest, please join us. There are other ways we can serve. There are other ways we can help the city residents, and we can make the city a great city, continue to make it a great city, even as we move forward into the growth that we're looking at. And so thank you. I appreciate you coming in today to share with us. And the reason why you wanted to join us on this council. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And I'll just echo everyone's statements. Yeah, thanks for applying. I think this is probably applications for a city council seat that I can't say forever, at least since I've been. Thank you, and, you know, and I think it was Lori that said, however the vote goes, hopefully, the other applicants, you know, would either to a, you know, planning commission or look at the budget committee, other ways to get involved in the city.
I will also thank everyone. I think, while we do have a lot of applicants, I will acknowledge this is a very unusual circumstance. You know, I heard, I think all of you had very good points, and I certainly, I think it's imperative that we make ourselves available and listen to the citizens and the community. And I think over the years we can demonstrate that. We've done that time and time again. And my personal opinion is I think what we have here is we have a disagreement, and that it's not that there's a lack of listening. There is just simply a disagreement to the conclusions. And so there's a difference between listening and a difference between being agreed with. And I think that the real issue here is people feel the latter. They're frustrated that we didn't agree with the conclusions that were brought forward to us. But that's my personal opinion. So also, I think greater communication, a flag I think is a great idea. Right? It's $7,000 at least for us to circulate one piece of mail to all residents in King City. So while I would love to send out personally a monthly newsletter to get that communication going is what I think desperately needed. I think with the Regal Courier, you know, being shut down was a great loss for the city, because we don't have some type of printed material that goes out to our residents on a consistent basis, which is disease. So maybe the KCCA could join with the city and do it in their newsletter, so we don't have to pay for $8,000 or $7,000 of postage. Right. Anyway, again, I thank everyone. I think, Gretchen, I think specifically for you, I think you have an unparalleled experience in public service, that there is no one that is more qualified than you in probably the entire county, if not the state. And personally, I really look to you to use that knowledge in the future, whether we say or not, to help mentor everyone serving. But I also think that that your expertise is really needed on the Planning Commission, because that is coming, you know, we have so much coming down the line too. So for that, I think if we're ready for a vote, we can call for a vote. Mike, do you need a individual vote?
I think so.
Roll call.
Yeah.
All right, let's do a roll call vote.
We have a motion and a second to appoint Jen Tyso. With Councilor Moore moved, Councilor Petrie seconded. So I'll start with Councilor Manellis.
Yes.
Councilor Ocholi.
Yes.
Councilor Petrie.
Yes.
Councilor Moore.
Yes.
Mayor Bender.
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
All right, thanks, Jen.
That's Max, go get it. So if you wouldn't mind sticking around, we'll swear in.
All right, and then,
Take a quick 5 minutes.
Yeah. Could you also make sure planning commission vacancy is posted ASAP?
so are we not adjourning the, you want to keep it open then, all right?
We'll just momentarily so we can grab the oath of office and swear in.
Okay.
And we have budget committee open. Same application.
All right, so we'll take a 5-minute recess then. Oh, thank you. I would have forgot all about it.
Congratulations.
Hold on, this is hot, hold on.
chair of planning commission today.
you have a gavel?
All right, let's call this meeting back to order, please. And, all right. So, Mike, you want me to do your, I'm just so used to you always doing that. So, Jan, you want to, join me up here?
Steve.
We'll come and stand here. Mike, you want to take a couple photos?
Sure.
All right, we stand in front of our, here. All right. So, okay, you raise your right hand. I can do that. All right, so your oath of office. So, if you repeat after me, I, Jan Tyso, do hereby solemnly swear
I, Jan Tyso, do solemnly swear
that I will, to the best of my ability,
that I will, to the best of my ability,
faithfully fulfill and discharge
faithfully fulfill and discharge
the duties of the office to which I have been appointed,
the duties to the office for which I have been appointed,
and that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
and I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the laws of the state of Oregon,
the laws of the state of Oregon,
and the ordinances of the city of King City.
and the ordinances of the city of King City.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. We need this. All right. With that, I believe we can adjourn for the evening. Mike, there's no, all right. With that, on that that was ceremoniously, but now unceremoniously, we will adjourn this meeting. I didn't
We
get it. I didn't
don't
give
need a
you,
motion or?
I don't think we need them. Mike, do you want a motion for the record? All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn. We don't technically, but.
I make a
fine.
motion
Let's
to
go.
adjourn.
All right, second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. One more? Go ahead. All right, yes, all right, it's unanimous. All right, meeting adjourned. We don't really need it.
I was there.
So it says elected instead of appointed. So, give me the-
All right,
yeah, we'll get a new one. I made it correct in it.
all right.
That's a good thing we have a lawyer on the
That's right.
Yeah, sorry, we're like